Welcome to another Highland League Weekly preview show. I'm Ryan Cryle and here's Callum Law with everything you need to know about this weekend's big game.
The main game for us this weekend on Highland League Weekly is Strathspey Thistle versus Lossiemouth in the Breedon Highland League at Seafield Park. It's two teams that will be eager to get back in action. The Granton Jags haven't had a game for 2.5 weeks, while the Coasters haven't played a fixture for 3 weeks. Strathspey are still looking for their first points in the Highland League this season, but they can be buoyed by their previous meeting with Lossiemouth this term. That was in the GPH Builders Merchants Highland League Cup, with Thistle prevailing by a 1-0 at Grant Park. Lossie will be hoping to build on their first win of the season, which came in their last outing 3 weeks ago when they defeated Wick Academy. But you'll be able to see who comes out on top on this occasion on Monday's Highland League Weekly.
Okay, Crystal Paul time. Now, just a reminder of the score. First of all, it remains 21-7 to the opposition. I'm playing the opposition this week. Callum's Paul Thirds again out here, so Callum is Crystal Paul this week. But yes, still a big lead for the opposition, despite all the games at the weekend being postponed.
It's a good weekend for us last weekend because we weren't wrong. So.
True. Now, we're going to only predict one game this week, and a change to your regular viewing because it's a Scottish Cup weekend, so we've decided to just have one main highlights game on Monday's Highland League Weekly, and then we're also going to be doing a special, yet to be revealed, Scottish Cup feature. Once we've previewed the rest of the Breedon Highland League action, after this part of the show, we will also be having a little chat previewing all of the Scottish Cup ties involving Highland League sides, so please stay tuned. But yes, before that, our predictions for this week's main game, or this weekend's main game.
Strathspey Thistle versus Lossiemouth, and I would be inclined, Strathspey obviously looking for elusive first points. Lossie had a good win 3 weeks ago, feels like about a lifetime ago to be honest with you that we were there, but played well against Wick to win, and I would be inclined to say 1-1, which probably isn't a bad result for either side. Lossie picking up another point and Strathspey getting off the mark, if that's how it ends up.
I'm going to go for a away win for Lossiemouth and 2 goals. I mean, this obviously isn't part of it, doesn't count, but 2 goals for Henry Jordan as well, because I was impressed with him last time when we filmed Lossie's game. So unless he's away with the RAF.
So what score are you giving?
2-1. 2-1
right.
to Lossiemouth. 2-1. So yeah, we'll find out this weekend whether we're right or whether we're wrong. Chances are probably wrong. Competition time then. Now at the weekend, our main highlights game was postponed along with the rest of the games, but it was meant to involve both Forest Mechanics and Huntly, and we asked you in last week's teaser which of those sides were the last to win a piece of silverware, what that silverware was, and when they won it. The answer was, of course, Forest Mechanics, who won the Highland League title in the 2011-2012 season. Now, we had quite a lot of entries for this one with the correct answer, quite a lot of nice messages as well, with people giving little anecdotes from the time. The winner drawn is Andrew King, so congratulations, Andrew. You'll be getting one of these Highland League Weekly mugs sent to you, or a Crystal Paul tea towel when you send us your address at sport@pressandjournal.co.uk. Now, time for this week's competition. Scottish Cup weekend this weekend, involving a few of the Highland League sides. Now, we want you to tell us when the last time a Highland League side took on Premiership opposition in the National Trophy was. Tell us the Highland League team involved, tell us the Premiership team who were involved, and tell us the season in which the game took place. And you too could be the owner of either a Highland League Weekly mug, Crystal Paul tea towel. Answers to sport@pressandjournal.co.uk or in the comments below this video, wherever you're watching. Good luck. Now, Nairn are on a good run of 3 wins in all competitions. Wick, meanwhile, the visitors to Station Park, will be playing their first game in 3 weeks. Little caveat to this one, Nairn will of course be without talismanic striker Connor Gethins. He's left the club to become the manager of Cudden.
The Maroons are looking for their second win in the league this season, 2 months after they picked up their first. Rothes are 9th in the table, but with all the teams above them in Scottish Cup action this weekend, they could jump up to 7th with a victory.
Okay, as promised, this weekend there are 10 Scottish Cup Round 2 ties involving 11 Breedon Highland League sides, and we're going to rattle through them and just have a wee look ahead. Callum, where do you want to begin? Brecon City Spartans?
Yeah, that would be a decent place. I mean, there's quite a few, which I'll probably touch on first. Highland League v SPFL ties, and Brecon City v Spartans is obviously one of them. Rematch of the pyramid playoff at the end of last season, which ended up being decided on penalties with Spartans going through, and they have gone on and done well in League 2. They're sitting third in the table at the moment. But the thing, and I'll say the same with another tie we'll come on to in a minute, but the thing that's interesting for me is Brecon did win the home leg of that tie 3-2 at Glebe Park, so I would kind of potentially fancy them to do it again. I think on a wider point as well with that tie, given the sort of the flooding and the sort of various things that have gone on in Brecon over the last week or so, it would probably give a lot of people in the town a bit of a lift if they could get through as well. And ties in a similar vein, Fraserburgh v Bonnyrigg Rose as another pyramid playoff rematch, and again Highland League v League 2. And again, although Fraserburgh lost that tie in 2022 3-2 in aggregate, they won the home game at Belsley 1-0, and I again would be inclined to fancy them to get through. I think there'll be motivation won't be in short supply. They've got a good cup pedigree. They've seen them do well. I mean, at this stage last season, they beat Stranraer 2-1, which was by all accounts a cracking day, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was be a bumper crowd, I'm sure, and it'd be set up well. Dumbarton against Banks of Dee, obviously, I'd say certainly with being away from home is trickier for Banks of Dee because at Spain Park, everyone knows what a force they are, but in Dumbarton they've started the season well, second in League 2, but Banks of Dee are a team that have shown they're capable. I mean, season before last, reached round 4, beat East Fife on the way, so as much as it's probably a tall order, you couldn't count them out. You've got Stenhousemuir against Brora, and I think, Stenhousemuir are 4th in League 2, so clearly not an easy tie, but I think Brora should fancy their chances. Their only defeat in their last 6 in all competitions was to a Ross County team boasting quite a few first teamers in the North of Scotland Cup. And Brora, they've got a really good, if you look over the last decade, cup pedigree as well. They've reached the third round 6 times, I think it is. They've beat the likes of Stranraer, East Fife, Hearts most famously in that period, so there's no question they can do it. And the other thing, I think it's in their favour, artificial pitch at Ochil View, with the way Brora like to play with the likes of Dale Gillespie getting on the ball and passing it, that plays to their strengths, so I think they've got a good chance. You've got Huntly v Forfar at Christie Park, another Highland League v League 2, and it's 2 teams really who've had completely contrasting starts to the season. Huntly in the league, 7 wins and a draw and a loss in 9 games, top scorers in the Highland League, 33 goals. Forfar, by contrast, 9 league games, 1 win, and they've scored 8 goals in those 9 games. So I mean, it's cliched, but you'd say confidence for both of them. It's sort of opposite ends of the spectrum, so I suppose Huntly'd be hoping to sort of play on that a wee bit. And I mean, over the years, maybe going back quite a few, but over the years there's been plenty of scalps taken at Christie Park, and I think the Black and Golds have got a chance of another one. And then you've also got the last Highland League v SPFL tie, Peterhead against Clach. 2 old Highland League foes obviously, but Peterhead this season been going really well. They're top of League 2. Clach, their only win was in the Scottish Cup first round. It looks a tall order. They'll be hoping they get a wee bit of a bounce with Connor Gethins going in as manager. It'll be his first game, and I mean, there's no shortage of enthusiasm on his part, and I think he could be a good appointment, but I think this is a tough ask in terms of making a winning start.
As you kind of hinted at, Callum, I would suggest that the one that I'm looking at thinking that's tasty, given the form, given the sort of pedigree of the SPFL side involved, although maybe not this season, but Huntly against Forfar, that looks, if Huntly could win that game, and they've got a really good chance, you would say, probably as good a chance as they could possibly have, it would be a big scalp.
It would be. I think the thing is, between, and people always will say, and I would agree, that between League 2 and the top end of the Highland League, there isn't a massive difference, but it is still, to beat an SPFL team for a Highland League club is still a tall order and a tough ask. And I think if you're going purely on the form, I mean, Forfar, I think they finished last season quite well, and quite a lot was expected. This season hasn't quite happened. If you're going on the form, that certainly very much brings Huntly in, and it is tasty. But I mean, elsewhere, although other sides are in decent form, like, I don't think you could rule out. I mean, Clark would probably, and I'm sure if you looked at bookies' odds, Clark would be the longest shot out of all the six that are playing League 2 opposition. But I don't think you could rule any of them out, really. And if you look on it, even at the other ties, there's some really interesting ones. I mean, for Martin v Clydebank at North Lodge Park is a real standout as well. I mean, it's the leaders of the Highland League against the leaders of the West of Scotland Premier Division, which is a league below the Lowland League, and that's really strong, that league now. There's a lot of teams sort of queuing up to try and advance up the pyramid. But I mean, for Martin, they're traditionally good at home. They've had, again, over the last decade, they've had a lot of joy in the Scottish Cup, and you'd hope they can maybe do it again. You look at other ties, I mean, Forest Bucky's the only all Highland League affair, and going on the table and on current form, you know, Bucky are third, Forest are 11th. You'd have to say Bucky start as favourites, but you know, it's not to say Forest aren't capable of winning that game if they play well. You look elsewhere, I mean, Devonvale, Broxburn. Devonvale haven't been in the third round for 10 years, and as much as this will be a tough tie at home, it looks like a decent opportunity for them. I mean, Broxburn are top of the East of Scotland Premier League, which again sits below the Lowland League, and they beat Nairn at home in the last round, so they're clearly a decent outfit, but I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility for Vale to go through there. If you look at some of the others, I mean, Turriff against Cumnock Juniors down at Cumnock, that looks certainly a difficult time. I mean, Cumnock are the Junior Cup holders, and these Ayrshire junior teams traditionally have proved to be very tough opposition for Highland League sides. But again, Turriff, it's been 10 years since they've been in the third round, and we've seen what they can do on their day, and if they can stay in the game, John Allen, Ewan Clark, etc., will cause problems. So again, you couldn't totally count Turriff out, as much as I think it'll be a tall order perhaps for them.
Right, is that as discussed every game?
I think that's all of them.
Well, if we've missed one, you can tell us in the comments below. Obviously, we know how financially lucrative it can be to, well, once you get into the third round and maybe even the fourth round for sides playing at Highland League level. Callum, before we finish up, if you were, obviously we know one Breedon Highland League team is going to be in the third round draw. Of the other 9 ties, how many of those are going to see the Highland League sides progress, do you think?
I think out of the 11 we've got involved, obviously Forest or Bucky's one, I think we'll get 5 out of 11 through would be my prediction. I think we'll have a couple, I couldn't say where for definite, but I think we'll have a couple of SPFL scalps taken, and I think I'll stick my neck out and say I would go with Martin to get through at home as well, and maybe some of the other sides that maybe less fancied will maybe do well and cause a wee bit of an upset rather than get through. But I think for Martin, certainly one I would look at, and then I think there's 3 or 4 of the sides facing League 2 sides I think have got a right chance.
Alright, well, we'll have to wait and see. That's it for this week's Highland League Weekly preview show. Thanks for watching. Once again, this week we've been brought to you in association with Alexander Wallace Toyota of Elgin. Whether you're looking for a new or used Toyota or you've already got one, Alexander Wallace is there to meet your needs. Details on the garage are below this video if you're watching the Press and Journal website, but you can also find Alexander Wallace Toyota Elgin by searching using your favourite search engine, whichever search engine that may be. Just a reminder, on Monday our main highlights game will be Strathspey Thistle against Lossiemouth, and we'll also have that special Scottish Cup involving Highland League teams feature that is going to be put together over the weekend, so look out for that one. In the meantime, before we see you next, please follow us on Twitter, join our Highland League Weekly Facebook group. We're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok. You find us in all those places. For more Highland League news from the Press and Journal, you can also sign up to our newsletters. There's a link to do that below this video on the Press and Journal website as well. In the meantime, enjoy the games, whether it's a Highland League game or a Scottish Cup game, whichever you're watching this weekend.